Well, hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So finally we do have Bishop's buff information, and he seems like he got a quite considerate moderate update. He has much of what he had before, but several things definitely have changed, and on the brightest side of them all, he finally will stop killing himself. Either way, I will not read everything here word by word. I will leave the the link in the description of this ability breakdown, but we're just going to go over the main abilities and what is going to be important. So, persistent power meter. Bishop's mastery over energy and time enables him to enter the fight with 100% of power he finished in his previous fight within the same quest with. And also, when you activate special attack, you do not use power, but you lose them straight after the special attack. Now, why it is important? It is because you can enter a quest, you can use a special attack. If that special attack kills the opponent, then you can start the next fight with the same amount of power that you had at the time of finishing it. So it's kind of important to make sure that you finish the fight with a special attack, and then you get to keep all your power, which is kind of cool, right? And let's move on to the next one. All of Bishop's personal prowess effects increase his special attack damage by 10%. So they're not overly huge, but he will be able to get plenty of them. Always active energy transference, as we can see here. He has 4000 energy resistance. That should make him extremely potent in a ton of matchups against energy dealing champions, and basically that already would immediately mean that you do not want to use champions that use energy damage as their primary source of damage against the Bishop as well, which is going to be even exemplified further. Every 1 second on receiving any energy damage, gain 3 passive prowess. Absorbing the kinetic energy of a blocking or being struck generates 1 stack of prowess. Well-timed blocks gain additional 6 prowesses. So with a single parry, you can gain 7 prowesses, which is well, quite nice, right? All these abilities grant +2 prowess where skill opponents and -1 against tech opponents, but he will actually still be able to gain prowess against tech opponents. But in general, you will pretty much never want to use a skill champion to fight against Bishop. So blocking, holding the block for 0.5 seconds, Bishop converts 1 personal prowess into a regeneration buff every 0.33 seconds, granting 186.67 health over 5 seconds, max stacks 5. And also each prowess converted also has a 100% chance to purify bleed debuff. So it's pretty much similar to how it is working now, when you can hold the block and purify the bleeds and heal up a bit. It's just changed to an actual buff for 5 seconds. I don't know if it's going to be any more potent, because previously that healing wasn't all that. But maybe, who knows. Also, always active debuff feedback. Each time opponent purifies a debuff, they instantly receive 1900 energy damage. Skilled champions also receive a passive stun lasting 1.5 seconds if the debuff purified was stun. So against skilled champions, he has that Storm Pyramid X ability where you inflict stun on opponent if they do try to purify, and then he kind of have that bit of Jubilee where you just do not want to be purifying anything against Jubilee, because yeah, you're going to be taking a fair bit of damage, which could make him, this is one of the abilities that could make him quite annoying on defense, and I will show another one ability later. Then we have Power Overload. Now he still has this Power Overload, but it is at the very least not going to be killing him, but more so the opponent. While Bishop has more than 30 prowess, or if he is bleeding, he overloads and begins consuming his personal prowess effects one at a time, getting faster the longer he's been overloading. So 30 is kind of like the magic mark where you, well, will start losing your prowess over time. Also, if Bishop is suffering from a bleed, shock, or incinerate debuff, or passive, each time he consumes a prowess this way, he also deals 476 energy damage to his opponent, scaling with base attack. Now, this could potentially be extremely annoying going up against Bishop, and will definitely involve some testing, but you might require a very specific counter to be able to deal with Bishop, or at the very least you would have to avoid Bleed, Shock, or Incinerates, which might make some fights against Bishop tricky, so he's likely going to be one to keep an eye out for. So special attacks. After each special attack, Bishop consumes all of his personal prowess passives. If Bishop is overloading, go unblockable for the duration of special attack. Fair enough. But here is perhaps the coolest change. Special 1. After this special attack finishes, gains steady release passive for 10 seconds. While active, every 0.75 seconds while near the opponent, inflict an Incinerate debuff on them, dealing 773 energy damage over 3 seconds. Each prowess consumed by this attack increases the duration of steady release by 2.5%. So you could keep it active for a very, very long time. And yeah, you will definitely kind of have to have an Incinerate immune champion fighting Bishop for most part, unless you're using something like Quake. Because if he drops a level 1, you're just gonna start incinerating like a crazy guy. I wonder how the fight against Human Torch would look like, because you try to incinerate, he gets smaller. That could be quite crazy, because then you'd get... it's something to keep in mind to test out for. Which one is gonna come out on top. But basically, he'd be kind of like Immortal Abomination, in a sense, where you chill close to opponent, and they just get incinerates all the time, and they take a ton of damage. Special 2 is also quite interesting. The last hit has a 100% chance to inflict an Incinerate debuff lasting 10 seconds and dealing 70% of the total damage dealt by the special attack. Now, obviously, since potentially there could be a ton of prowess involved, you might be able to do quite a lot of damage overall, and then Incinerate by extension should be quite potent as well. Special 3, Diffusion Wave, 100% chance to inflict a non-stacking energy vulnerability, reducing energy resistance by 1274 for 20 seconds. Against enemies at full health, this energy vulnerability becomes indefinite. And that is a very cheeky idea, because if you run some synergies with Bishop, or obviously if you have finished the previous fight with 3 bars of power or with your level 3, you have your level 3 available to you from the very, very start of the fight. And thus, you will be able to do even more damage. Which should be quite interesting. And Signature ability is actually looking like quite potent one as well. Bishop prepares a unique bonus based on how many bars of power are full at the start of the fight, and that lasts for the remainder of the fight. With 0 bars, special attacks become unblockable with a stack of 10 or more prowesses. Cool, it's neat, but you know, he could go unblockable anyways with 30. With 1 bar, while blocking, gains stun immunity, and enemies lose 80% ability accuracy. Now that could be quite useful, because he can block against Apocalypse, for instance, and he can just ignore encroaching stun if he started the fight with at least a bar of power. Neat. While 2 bars, special attacks have 100% chance to leave the target incinerated for 70% of the special damage over 10 seconds. So this is basically extra incinerate. This is the text of level 2, effectively. So a level 2 would immediately give you 2 incinerates that both deal 70% of the special damage over X amount of seconds. So even more damage there. And with 3 bars, start the fight with a steady release active for 15 seconds. And that is obviously the most OP one. You want to start pretty much every single fight with 3 bars of power. And yeah, start a fight with 3 bars of power, drop special 3. They have energy vulnerability, 15 seconds of the steady release. And just try to get back to level 3 to finish off the fight. That would probably be the way to go in most of the fights, unless you synergize him up. Which he still has the synergy with Psylocke, except now this petrifies pause during special attacks, which actually might make that synergy viable for something. But all of these synergies now with like Doctor Strange, with Electro, Cyclops, and Storm, you gain +2 prowesses and 1 bar of power. So you can easily synergize up Bishop to a point where no matter what you do or how you finish any given fight, you would start every single fight with, at the very least, 6 prowesses active and 3 bars of power. So that would be quite interesting. So what can we expect from Bishop? A ton of Incinerate buffs. Because if you read the level 1, that 2.5 second increase, where's the level 1? 2.5% increase. But you can easily get, what, 30, 40 prowess probably when you drop that level 1. Even conservatively getting, let's say, 30%. So you get 10 seconds plus another 7.5 seconds, 17.5 seconds. You, for most part, can spend most of the fight with this steady release passive, consistently incinerating opponent. And that energy resistance could give him some reasonable amount of utility. And in general, it's one of those buffs that could potentially be very exciting, to be honest. I can't wait to play around with it. Hopefully the numbers hold up, because there could be enough of interesting interactions and interesting pieces of utility to make Bishop very, very useful. Now, will it elevate him to top of the mutant class? Not unless his numbers are absolutely bonkers crazy, which I don't think they seem. But then again, I might be wrong. But at the same time, if numbers do not hold up, then this buff will achieve very little, considering how jacked is the mutant class. It's going to be one of those play with him for a bit and then just don't touch him again. So it all, as far as I can see, depends on the playtest. There is definitely potential there, I think, with Incinerates, with huge energy resistance, with potentially very big special attack damage, with Cheese potential of starting every fight with 3 bars of power or 2 bars of power, how you synergize him, and having all of those other abilities active. A lot of cool stuff can happen there. I'm just gonna have to wait till he's alive in game to see how well it translates from paper, actual numbers in the fights. Right, but that being said, let me know what you guys think about Bishop. How does it look for you? And whether you think he's going to be any good or not. As I mentioned, I'm going to leave a link to this page in the description, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information